All right, just got through chapter 2 of The Prince of Darkness. Um, I'm not gonna lie, it's frustrating. I like autobiographies because I like the first person telling me what happened, opposed to someone telling me a story about what happened. Just because I feel like you get more insight, and so again, it's very frustrating for me because I'm like, okay, well, you're telling me a story, but you're not telling me the story, if that makes any sense. So like in autobiography, they go through details and they're like, oh shit, and then this happened, and then this happened. But in a biography, then they're like, well, we suppose this might have happened, or we suppose this might have happened, right? So it's kind of like we don't really know for sure. But chapter 2, again, uh, take away from the fact that I don't really like biographies, it was quite interesting because I learned some stuff I had never known before. Let's start off. Well, this is actually chapter 1, as the first one, the last video was the introduction. But chapter 1 starts off Haiti, 1828. Now, if you didn't know, well, we go through. Well, let's first talk about the huge opportunity there was to double your money. In 1825, 374 American vessels had sailed to the Haitian capital carrying 39,000 tons of beef, hams, dried codfish, flour, soap, naval stores, tobacco, and other stuff. A little over a decade before Anne Eliza Jane, which is part of the story, but you don't know anything about it yet. I do. Sorry. A merchant, right? An African American named Paul Cuffee, and then last name Cuffee. I'll have it in the description for you. He was a sea captain, a merchant from New Bedford, Massachusetts, had doubled his $5,000 investment on a single trip down to Haiti by bringing fish, oil, and shingles into the tropic and then buying coffee and sugar and bringing it back. So there was huge opportunity to be made in Haiti, right? If you don't know too much about what happened in Haiti, Haiti's the only nation that won its independence through, wasn't given their independence, they actually won it. There's a huge difference, right? But in that, all right, you got to do your own history. This is a history lesson on the Haitian independence. Got to do your own research on that. But what was kind of really interesting in this as well is the amount of okay, so Haiti under the French was just booming, man. They were booming. It's one of the wealthiest cities. They were producing more than all the other colonies put together. Let me hear you on this one. However, the way they did it was kind of bad, right? Like you were a slave to work and die, and that's it. As it says right here, Saint Domingue, which is crazy, right? It's called a saint, right? I mean, we can talk about saints and how most of all the saint stuff is associated with multiple deaths, but we'll talk about that different. Was a charnel house where every year between 5 and 10% of the slave population died and had to be replaced. Just think about that. In 1790, more than 40,000, right, fresh American slaves were unloaded from the slave ships, put on a block, and sold. Now remember, out of 40,000, so we're talking 4,000 of those had to be replaced the next year because they worked them to death. As a historian noted, it was cheaper to let the slaves die and buy more in Africa. So that's what they did. They worked you to death until it was over. Now, again, I don't want to get too much into this because, there is plenty in it. And if you want to go through my notes and everything with me, be sure that you find where I'm going to have the notes. Probably I'm going to have a whole page for this book. And through there, I'll have them available for you so you can purchase the notes if you want. Let's sit there. So what the Prince of Darkness, what he's really discussing, or what this chapter is discussing, I also did not know this. I did not know that America was like the counterfeit capital of the world, right? Well, a small little city in Canada was actually the capital. They made it all, but New York was like the hub, like booming. At one point in time, they're saying about 40, but this is before the Civil War, right? And if you kind of think about this, it makes sense why we had a Fed, right? 40% of all money in the United States was counterfeit, right? And throughout some of this chapter, it talks about how some of the wealthy people would prefer to have a counterfeit of a well-prominent bank opposed to a real note of a less known bank, right? So just think about that. Your counterfeit is worth more than a bank, an actual note, right? But now, when the Dark Prince went down to Haiti on that ship, I forgot what it's called, the Saint Anne or something like that. He went down there for a specific reason. Right? He went down there to exchange counterfeit for, basically flood the market full of counterfeit, buy as much sugar and coffee as he possibly could, bring it back to New York, make a quick buck, and say la vie. However, what happened when he got down there with buckets and buckets of coins, right? I think altogether is maybe 7,000 to 9,000 little pesos, Haitian pesos. When the people went to turn them in, listen to this. This is how ridiculous this is. When the people went to turn them in, the only way they got caught is they realized that the counterfeits had more silver in them than the regular ones. So in all aspects, the counterfeits were more valuable than the actual money. They had made something that was too good, all right? They made something in Canada, right, that was too good for the Haitians. Now, that's mind-boggling to me. I think it's hilarious, but it's mind-boggling. But then it kind of gets, the rest of the chapter kind of lengthy, but that was more of the interesting parts. Now, I'm almost at my timer, and I don't want to go too far and bore you too much, but if you want to learn more, again, go in depth, there's a place where you can go, I go in depth, and I actually talk about it, and we go over the kind of the craziness. But the smart thing that Jeremiah did, right, because he was known to be the person. And he went on the run, and 10 days later, he escaped Haiti and made it back to New York. Now, it was a big spectacle, but he learned at a very young age, because he was only 20, in his early 20s, the power of the newspaper. So, and the other great thing, or other thing he did that kept him afloat, is he never snitched on the people that financed him. Kept his mouth shut. He threatened it a few times, but he never said anything. He probably threatened it to get more eyes and attention on him so he could be in control of the narrative. So he ended up being able to control the narrative for the white newspapers. Now, hear me out on this. This is what's really key. For the white newspapers, right? Because they just kind of made it as business as usual. But the black newspaper, hold on. What was it called? Because this is important. Hold on just a second. What was his name? Samuel Cornish and John Russwurm. All right. Again, these two names will be in the bottom as well. They had, in 1827, they had opened, or I don't know if exactly that year, they started the first African-American newspaper, right? The Freedom's Journal. Now, it didn't last very long, right? Because of, advertising and other issues. But during this time, when Jeremiah was able to convince the white newspapers of his, maybe not innocence, however, he was able to convince the white newspapers the unimportance of doing this to the Haitian government, because the white countries didn't recognize Haiti as a country anyways, right? So they were just stealing some from some black people. It no matter. That's the narrative that Hamilton used, Jeremiah, and that worked. However, for the Freedom Journal, the African American paper, it did not work, and they were trying to pin it on him and villainize him. Again, didn't really work because Jeremiah got away scot-free, and he was ready for even more business after this incident because he didn't snitch. Now, if you had fun with my little description, please join me. Click the button down. Join me on the webpage. The first video I didn't say that, but in the second one, go to the webpage and there will be more on this book.